An amazing cowboy unexpectedly welcomes his neighbor's abandoned fiancée, revealing true love in. Jake stood beneath the blistering Texan sun, the air thick and heavy with the scent of dry earth and impending storms. Fixing a barbed wire fence was meant to be just another uneventful task on his family's sprawling ranch, but today felt different. Each twist of the wire was a reminder of his own tightly bound life, a life chained to the land, to the unyielding circle of cowboy traditions, leaving little room for dreams he once harbored. Agricultural science, once a path that beckoned to him, now seemed like a distant echo overshadowed by the weight of daily obligations. As sweat dripped down his brow, Jake's mind drifted. He could almost hear the rustling whispers of long-lost ambitions, beckoning for attention even as the sun bore down mercilessly on his back. It was just then he spotted her. A woman stranded on the roadside, her delicate figure clashing sharply with the rough backdrop of the Texas landscape. It was Emily, his neighbor's fiancée, abandoned, alone, and vulnerable, an image that stirred something deep within him. Before he could think twice, he pulled over, heart racing with the knowledge of what others would say. Disloyalty, betrayal, they would whisper. But in those moments, all he could see was the sadness in Emily's eyes, a reflection of his own unvoiced dreams. Accepting her presence into his life felt like opening a floodgate, a rush of emotional barriers crumbling down. As they mended fences together, each conversation dug deeper into buried fears and desires. Emily unveiled her passion for art, a dream she had once cherished. What had turned her vibrant colors into muted pastels? Slowly she turned the focus on him, coaxing him to reconsider his own ambitions, subtly leading him to confront the haunting question of his choices. "Why not pursue it now?" she asked one afternoon. Her gaze held a gentle challenge, but the mere thought of stepping beyond the ranch felt like a betrayal in itself, toward his family, the land, and every cowboy tradition that held him captive. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days dragged on, the air thickening with unspoken tension. Society's judgment felt like a creeping shadow as whispers of their connection crackled through town. Jake's heart wrestled with loyalty, a neighbor who had walked away unscathed from the life Emily wanted to escape. What did it mean to honor that loyalty while also craving something more profound? The angered stares and murmurs suffocated him, a constant reminder of unwelcome scrutiny. Then came the revelation that rattled their fragile world, a truth hidden in Emily's past. Her lineage was tangled with a legacy now exploited by her ex-fiancé, laying shattered dreams bare before them. Confusion washed over Jake. Was he merely a sanctuary for her heart while limping on the edges of his own hopes? Progress felt like breaking trust, and retreat felt like abandoning her as so many had before. Caught between his burgeoning love for Emily and the shackles of societal expectations, Jake stood at a crossroads, the open plains before him whispering a different calling. But unbeknownst to him, the path he was afraid to take loomed larger than he ever imagined. Would breaking the bonds of convention set them free, or would the weight of it all pull them both under? The choices ahead lay like the vast Texas sky, a spectrum of light, limitless yet uncertain, waiting for him to step forward into the unknown. Jake's heart thudded in his chest as he contemplated the future. The days since Emily had arrived felt simultaneously electrifying and suffocating. He watched her sketch in the shade of the old oak by the ranch house, her fingers dancing across the paper like they had once danced in his dreams. Each stroke uncovered pieces of her soul, pieces he ached to know better, and yet he grappled with his own identity, feeling increasingly distant from the man he had always been. Invited into her world, Jake marveled at her ability to create beauty from chaos. Her passion for art mirrored the unrefined emotions swirling within him, yet as night fell and the colors of the day faded, doubt clawed at him. What if he couldn't match her spirit? What if the dreams they shared were mere phantoms, destined to fade when confronted with the harsh realities of their lives? One evening, as the sunset ignited the sky in a fiery exhibition, Jake stood on the porch, wrestling with his growing desire for change. The horizon beckoned him, a promise of new beginnings, yet chains of loyalty rattled against his heart. He glanced at Emily, lost in her artwork, eyes alight with possibility. What if he could pursue his dreams alongside her? Hope surged, but it was quickly squashed by the resounding judgment of his upbringing and the toxic tradition of the ranch. "Jake?" Emily's voice drew him from his tumultuous thoughts. "What are you thinking about?" The softness in her tone felt like an invitation to unearth his fears. He inhaled deeply, gathering the courage to share. "I'm just stuck," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's like I'm two different people, and I don't know how to be both. This ranch needs me, but I feel drawn to opportunities, to a life where I could do something meaningful." Emily set down her sketch pad and moved closer, eyes burning bright with understanding. "You have to trust yourself, Jake. What good is it to be loyal if you're unhappy? Your dreams matter too." Her words sank in like deep rain, yet they also planted a seed of triumph alongside the weeds of doubt. Perhaps it was time to reassess not just his ambitions, but the values instilled in him. Loyalty was important, but at what cost? In that moment, uncertainty crystallized into decision. Jake realized he couldn't hide behind the familiar walls of his upbringing. The whispers of his ambitions had swelled into a clarion call, and the fear of what lay beyond those walls felt less suffocating than the prospect of remaining stagnant. Torn between the familiar comfort of his past and the unsettling prospects of a new future, Jake decided to voice his feelings, but not just to Emily. He needed to take ownership of his choices. "I need to talk to my father," he resolved, determinedly steering the conversation toward action. Emily smiled, her encouragement wrapping around him like a warm embrace. "That's it, Jake. Talk to him, share your dreams. Change is scary, but if you don't try, you'll never know what's possible." That night, Jake lay awake, thoughts whirling. His father was a force as fierce as the Texan sun, and he couldn't predict how his words would be received. Would he understand? Would he see the struggle inside his son? Or would it ignite a firestorm of disappointment? Each possibility sliced through him like a knife, a sharp reminder that true love for both himself and Emily would require facing immense challenges. As dawn broke, Jake stared out at the ranch, the familiar terrain shifting gently in its colors. Today would be the day a seed of change was planted. He had a choice to make: speak his heart and risk everything, or retreat into the shadows of convention. He felt the pulse of the land beneath him, a surge of energy surging through his veins. With steely determination, he knew one truth. The time had come to face the man who had molded him and ask for the right to mold his own identity. Would the confrontation with his father liberate him or bind him further? Only time would tell, but Jake vowed to stay true to himself through whatever storm lay ahead. Jake stood in front of the mirror, staring at his reflection, the early morning light casting a harsh glow on the lines etched into his face. Each crease was a remnant of the years spent under the weight of expectations, of tradition pressing down on him like a blanket of concrete. He felt like a ghost of the man he could become, a specter haunted by the decision that lay ahead. Today was not going to be just another day on the ranch. It would be a crossroads, one that would either tether him to his past or catapult him into a future where he could finally breathe. He couldn't shake the weight of his father's shadow. The man was a titan in the community, a patriarch whose expectations rippled through every corner of the land. Jake could almost hear the unspoken words in the silence of the house. "You owe it to the ranch, to this family." But as he contemplated sharing his dreams, another voice echoed louder. "What about you, Jake? What do you owe yourself?" Shaking off the doubt, he inhaled deeply, filling his lungs with the crisp morning air. The scent of livestock and earth mixed with his resolve, urging him toward action. He found himself drawn to the wooden table by the window where Emily's sketches still rested, a testament to her vibrant spirit that fueled his burgeoning hope. For the first time, he noticed the dreamlike quality in her art. It was alive, raw, free. Could he harness that freedom for himself? His heart raced as he descended the stairs. Jake made his way to the barn where his father would likely be finishing up chores. The rhythmic sounds of hooves and the familiar scent of hay provided a false sense of calm. But as he neared the heavy wooden doors, anxiety surged through him. It wasn't just fear of confrontation, it was fear of exposure, of unveiling the layers of himself he had kept buried for far too long. "Dad?" Jake's voice rang out, cutting through the barn's ambiance. Silence followed, thick and heavy, like the humidity before a storm. He heard his father's boots shuffle in response, and soon enough, the familiar silhouette emerged, strong and imposing against the backdrop of hay bales. "Jake, what is it?" His father's tone was unreadable, a blend of expectation and impatience. It struck Jake that even after all these years, he never could quite unveil the emotions hidden behind that stern facade. "I need to talk to you." The words felt foreign on his tongue, a meteor of truth bursting into the established orbit of lies he had been endlessly spinning. His father leaned against a stall, arms crossed, his expression shifting from curiosity to scrutiny. "Can't it wait? There's work to be done." "No, it can't." The sudden defiance shattered Jake's hesitation. "I've been thinking a lot about my future, about what I want to do." "Your future? You have a responsibility here, Jake. This ranch? That's just it." The words surged forth with more weight than he'd anticipated. "I feel trapped. I want something that means more to me than just maintaining the ranch. I want to work with art, explore opportunities outside this place." As soon as the last syllable left his lips, the air felt electric, charged with an unspoken potential. He watched aftershocks ripple across his father's face, emotions flickering, disappointment, anger, confusion, all storming within the confines of a man who had spent his life guarding tradition as fiercely as he guarded his family. "I raised you to respect this land, to carry on the legacy." "I respect that, but I need to respect myself too. I can't just bury who I am for the sake of tradition." The clarity in Jake's voice surprised him. The emotional wall between them felt insurmountably thick, but in the midst of that stalemate, Jake knew he'd taken a monumental step. It was no longer just about the ranch, it was about establishing a self that wasn't dictated by his upbringing. Each heartbeat thumped a rhythm of liberation, urging another step toward the life he envisioned. As a heavy silence enveloped them, Jake wrestled with his father's response. Would this moment result in reconciliation or a division that would fracture whatever bonds were left? Outside, the wind picked up, rattling against the barn's wooden frame, mirroring the turmoil within Jake. This confrontation was not merely about his dreams, but the very essence of who he was becoming. Underneath it all lurked a powerful realization: the fight for his identity was only just beginning. Would his father ultimately stand behind him, or would this be a line drawn in the sand? As hope and uncertainty mingled in his heart, Jake braced himself for whatever response awaited. A path forward loomed ahead, indistinct but undeniable, tantalizingly close, yet terrifyingly distant. The moment felt poised to spiral into something monumental, something that could change them both forever. And so, with his father's next words hanging precariously in the air, Jake could only wonder. Would he lay claim to his own destiny, or watch as it drifted away like a mirage? A guttural silence enveloped the barn as Jake stood warily, awaiting his father's reply. Moments stretched painfully, each heartbeat a reminder of the chasm between them. Jake could see his father's face shift, wrestling between anger and bewilderment, the two emotions clashing like opposing forces ready to erupt. Rather than deflating under the weight of his father's glare, Jake felt an unfamiliar resolve swell within him. "I've been thinking about what fulfilling my dreams truly means, Dad," he pressed. "I've always listened to your expectations, but at what cost? I can't be just a reflection of what you want." The old man shifted his weight, stilling the tide of words that threatened to flood forth. "You think you can just run away from this?" His voice was low, almost a growl, like a bear disturbed from hibernation. "This ranch, this land, it's not just property, it's legacy." "But it's also stifling," Jake shot back, emboldened by the clarity of his emotions. "I need to explore who I am outside these walls. Are you so afraid of stepping away from tradition that you can't see it's suffocating me?" The wind whipped outside, urging him to stand firm, to dig deep into the ground of his own identity, free from expectations. His father's heavy brow softened momentarily, a crack appearing in the armor of tradition he wore so rigidly. It was a glimpse of something, perhaps understanding or resolve forming against the backdrop of stubbornness. "Jake," he started, his voice faltering. "Your mother and I built this place, built it for you to inherit. I thought that was enough. That was the plan." "Maybe it was your plan," Jake countered, his heart pounding against his ribs. "But it's not mine. I want to forge a new path. I want to create something beautiful from my own experience." The silence settled back in, thicker now, as both men contemplated a future that seemed unfathomably distant. The idea of redefining not just himself but their entire relationship hung heavy in the air. And amid that standoff, a realization dawned on Jake. This was the moment. If he didn't push through, if he didn't allow himself and his father to feel the uncomfortable pressure of their tensions, he might forever feel shackled to the ranch's unyielding grasp. "Art is my passion," Jake murmured, almost to himself. "It's a part of who I am, and it's something I want to share with the world." Each word became a small stake in the ground of his emerging identity. He longed to paint not just landscapes but uncharted emotions. Just as Emily's sketches had once breathed life into his smothered spirit, his work could evoke the complexities of reality, unfurling them on canvas for all to see. "But what if you fail?" his father asked, a mixture of desperation and disbelief. "What if this art, this journey you envision leads you nowhere? What would become of the ranch?" "I'd be okay with that," Jake replied, his voice gaining strength. "Because at least I'd know that I tried. I can't keep living someone else's life. I need to know that my choices are mine." For a moment, the two stood locked in consideration. Would they forge a new understanding, one based on honesty rather than tradition? Or would this conversation deepen the chasm that had separated their lives? Just as Jake braced himself for whatever was next, the barn door creaked slightly, an echo of uncertainty amplifying the tension within. Would his father rise to this moment with understanding, or would he retreat into the safety of tradition, leaving Jake standing alone on the thresholds of his aspirations? With the weight of anticipation in the air, Jake held his breath, the proximity to a moment of revelation almost electric, a moment that could either bind them together or rend them apart irrevocably. "Your work," his father finally uttered, hesitating with each word. "It could jeopardize everything. But what if—" Jake leaned in, poised to hear the tide of fate shift in a direction he had only dared to dream about. Would this be a turning point in their story? The answer lingered tantalizingly just ahead, urging him onward. Would his father let him carve his own path, or would he hold fast to the safety of the known, resisting the call of the unknown? A flicker of new resolve sparked in Jake's chest, igniting a rush of adrenaline that surged through his veins as he waited for his father's next words. The very air in the barn seemed charged with possibility. The usual musty scent, now a reminder of the life nestled within those walls, both known and foreign. "But what if I supported you?" The words spilled forth slowly, each syllable laden with hesitation, like stones tossed from a great height. His father's gaze turned contemplative, reflecting a struggle, a movement towards something uncharted. Jake's heart raced. Had he truly heard correctly? "I would work hard at it," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper, yet grounded with passion. "I need your support to believe that it's possible. I want to take a leap into the unknown." His father stepped back, the rough skin of his hands trembling slightly at the idea of relinquishing control. "It's terrifying. You could lose everything we've built." Jake felt the weight of legacy push against him. It wasn't just the ranch or the land, it was the very identity of his family, a burden he sensed shifting. "Dad, if I don't pursue this, I'll lose something even more vital, myself. The risk of failure pales in comparison to failing to try." The silence hung thick, but this time it felt different, pregnant with the possibility of reconciliation. In that stillness, Jake contemplated how art had woven through his life like the vibrant threads of a tapestry. Each brushstroke represented a choice, moments stolen from the expectations that loomed overhead. He envisioned colors spilling from his heart onto the canvas, stories of resilience and struggle waiting to be told. His father rubbed a hand along the stubble on his chin, a sign of the storm brewing within. "What if you start small?" The question hung, as if daring them both to breathe life into a fragile hope. "You could take part in that local art show." "Art show?" Jake interrupted, surprise flaring. "You mean the one Emily is part of?" The thought of being close to her unnerved him. They had shared dreams before the weight of adult responsibilities had come crashing down around him. "Yes," his father affirmed, "a chance to see what others think of your work, to expose yourself. Maybe, just maybe, it's a way for you to demonstrate your worth beyond this ranch." Jake inhaled deeply, feeling the pulse of opportunity drumming louder. The tiny flame of hope ignited into a wider blaze, urging him forward. "I want to. I need to. It will be my first step toward carving out my existence, proving that I can create something valuable." "Then show me," his father replied, a hint of a smile beginning to tug at the corners of his mouth, as if the ground was shifting beneath their feet, altering the landscape of their relationship. "Show us all what you're capable of." Jake nodded, a forceful affirmation of the path he was inclined to follow. As fear mingled with the thrill of potential, he felt the familiar tendrils of uncertainty creeping back into his mind. What if he fell short? What if Emily could not see him beyond the boy she once knew? Turning to face the vast expanse of the open barn door, he felt the wind sweep through, a whisper encouraging him to leap into the artistry of his uncertain future. In that moment, he realized this was not purely about art. It was about stepping beyond the boundaries of who he had been molded to be. "Promise me," he said, words tumbling out with urgency, "that you'll help me allow my work into the world. I need to have the courage to embrace my journey." "I promise," his father replied, voice steady, but still the cadence of a man unsure of what lay ahead. The pact between them would be one of vulnerability and courage, a necessary remaking of ties bound by expectation into something more substantial. Jake stepped back onto the threshold of the barn, feeling the warmth of newfound possibilities radiate through him. Yet, just as joy flooded within, an inner flicker of excitement and fear melded in the crucible of his dreams. He couldn't shake the uneasy feeling of what might happen if he stepped too far from the boundaries he had always known. Would this decision propel him forward, or ensnare him in a web of vulnerability that could unravel who he was? As he contemplated this unknown path, he sensed a challenge awaiting him. The local art show, an opportunity to reveal not only his work, but the very essence of himself. A powerful sense of determination gripped Jake. This was his moment to confront his fears, to directly face the unknown that had haunted him. With a final glance at his father, now a partner in this journey, he stepped outside, the sun illuminating a world that seemed, for the first time, full of potential. But would the art he unveiled resonate? Would it lead him closer to recovery, or thrust him into a deeper struggle? As Jake stepped back into the light, uncharted territories loomed ahead, and the horizon felt as expansive and as treacherous as the journey he was now poised to embark upon. Jake stood at the edge of the barn's doorway, the sunlight glinting off the horizon like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. He inhaled sharply, sensing that every brushstroke he would apply in the coming weeks would not only depict scenes or emotions, but also unveil aspects of himself he had long buried beneath his family's burdens. With his father's words echoing in his mind, he felt the impending art show hang over him, a tangible challenge mingled with exhilarating opportunity. Yet, beneath the initial excitement swirled a storm of self-doubt. How would the delicate art forms of his mind translate onto canvas? What if his vulnerability was met with scorn instead of appreciation? He could visualize the blank canvases waiting for his brush, but beyond that, he saw interactions with the community that revolved around the show. Fair faces filled with judgment, murmurs of confusion or disdain. The pressure loomed large, but Jake clung to a simmering resolve to redefine the way he perceived himself. Days blurred into one another as Jake prepared for the exhibit. Mornings were spent painting, while afternoons involved sketching scenes from the ranch. The way light spilled over the fields, the dance of shadows, the texture of the livestock. Each scene was instinctual and raw, allowing him to translate long-held emotions onto these canvas pages. Yet with every brushstroke, he felt flashbacks of doubt. What would Emily think? Could his art bear the weight of his expectations? In the quiet solitude of the barn, memories of past creativity surfaced like ghosts. He could recall laughter shared with Emily as they sculpted together, hopes for the future swirling in their conversations. Those spirals of joy underpinned with whispers of terror that one day dreams might slip away forever. Once, art felt like a shared path. Now he wondered if she would lament the boy behind the canvas rather than celebrate the artist he hoped to become. One evening, driven by an impulsive caffeine spike, Jake decided to visit the small cafe Emily frequented. As he entered, familiar aromas enveloped him, a juxtaposition of comfort and anxiety. The establishment bustled with life, each laugh and clink of mugs a reminder of what he had missed when he distanced himself from his aspirations. He scanned the room, heart racing, knowing that if he encountered her, he would have to confront his fears directly. His pulse quickened when he spotted Emily seated at a corner table, laughter spilling from her lips as she spoke animatedly with a friend. Their exchanges radiated warmth and easy companionship, a stark contrast to the heaviness that occupied Jake. As he wavered between retreating and seizing the moment, memories of their dreams rose within him, visions of shared studio space and whispered inspirations. Taking a deep breath, he resolved to approach her, yet before he could step forward, a wave of hesitation washed over him. Would he reclaim the past, or be met with an unbridgeable chasm of their lives pulled apart by time? Just then, catching her eye, he felt the currents of vulnerability surge. The warmth in her gaze flickered but was quickly supplanted by uncertainty. How would they tread on this unfamiliar terrain, once littered with laughter, now scarred with silence? "Hey, Jake," she said, her voice imbued with a mix of surprise and genuine warmth. He felt too many things rush him at once, the thrill of connection laced with the fear of rejection. "Hi, Emily, I've been painting," he offered, words feeling clumsy, like a novice stepping onto a stage. Her eyebrows raised in genuine interest. "You? What's it about?" He paused, fighting the urge to retreat back into self-doubt. "It's about us, I guess. About things we used to dream about." The vulnerability in her eyes met his, intense and searching. In that charged moment, Jake felt the lines of their past collide with the potential of his unvoiced future, each beat echoing boldness that was now blossoming. As the energy crackled between them, he understood that redemption might not solely lie in the art he created, but in the rejuvenation of the connections he feared had frayed beyond repair. "Perhaps," she began, her voice softening with empathy, "you might share your art with me sometime?" The suggestion hung between them, full of promise yet grounded in the uncertainty of history. Jake nodded, a smile breaking through his trepidation even as the prospect of baring his soul to her prompted a tumult of anxiety. But what would emerge from this newfound acceptance, this rekindled opportunity to confront who he was and what he longed to create? In the depths of his mind, the canvas awaited, each inch a battlefield of his heart, blending the colors of vulnerability and desire. As Jake walked away, buoyed by Emily's encouragement, yet burdened by 1,000 questions, he realized these connections might just propel him to the authenticity he yearned for. But as shadows of self-doubt loomed, he detected the flicker of a pathway ahead. The art show stood before him, an intersection of raw creation and the desire to share his truth. With every stride towards the future, new artistic demons awaited him, compelling him to unveil not just his skill, but buried fears that shaped his very essence. Would his expressions be strong enough to resonate, or would they only serve to expose the fractures of the past? Only time would tell as he prepared to confront the pivoting axis of his life. As dawn peeked over the horizon, the barn's interior filled with gentle light, illuminating the remnants of Jake's late-night work. Canvases leaned haphazardly against the walls, each one a vulnerable fragment of his soul, echoing whispers of dreams long dormant. He stirred, still reveling in the vibrant exchange with Emily. Her invitation ignited a fire deep within him, one that threatened to reshape everything he thought he knew about himself. Yet, under that burgeoning enthusiasm loomed an unshakable anxiety. What if he created something that didn't resonate? What if his artistry fell flat before the very eyes of those he yearned to impress, including the one who kept circling his thoughts? As he eyed his materials scattered across the room, the brushes, unblemished canvases, and tubes of paint, it struck him how much this journey demanded not just skill, but courage. Settling onto a stool, the scent of linseed oil wafting around him, Jake began methodically squeezing paint onto his palette. Each color glistened like a potential, the reds infusing passion, the blues embodying calmness, and the yellows buzzing with optimism. Today, he would venture deeper, challenging not only his technical abilities, but also his understanding of emotion and vulnerability in art. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and revisited their memories, every shared laugh, every whispered dream. The images transformed into shapes and colors in his mind, swirling together until they coalesced into a singular idea, a representation of their past but with an infusion of hope, a piece that spoke of redemption and the courage to embrace anew. But as he twirled the brush between his fingers, an unsettling thought broke through his focus. Is it fair to burden his art with their shared history? Would it speak for both of them, or merely echo his unvoiced wishes? He needed clarity, an alignment of intention and execution. Brushing paint onto canvas, he found himself lost in a trance of creativity, strokes ebbing and flowing like memories drifting in his mind. Time lost its grip, and the world outside blurred as he plunged deeper into expression. Yet doubts snaked their way back into his thoughts with every completed line. Hours turned into an intoxicating mixture of joy and despair. Each layer added another weight to his burgeoning resolve, but also magnified insecurities that made him question whether he was worthy of wielding a brush. Should he even share this with Emily, risking their tentative reconnection on the merit of his artistic expression? When evening painted the sky in hues of deep indigo, Jake finally pulled back from his canvas, breathless. He surveyed his work, an abstract interpretation of their intertwined paths, interspersed with the rawness of his individual journey. It was a tapestry of emotions, crafted painfully yet passionately from his depths. Suddenly, a soft knock disrupted his introspection. Startled, he swung open the barn door to find Emily standing there, a silhouette framed in the fading light. Her presence ignited a spark of hope buried beneath his doubts. A nervous smile spread across her face, making his heart race. "Can I come in?" she asked, glancing at the canvases decorating the barn like confessions waiting to be shared. "Of course," he said, stepping aside to let her enter, acutely aware of the tension weaving between them. She moved toward the focal piece. A sudden tremor gripped him. What would her reaction reveal? As Emily studied the artwork, silence enveloped them, thick with the anticipation of revelation. Eyes wide, she traced the contours of his creation with a gentle finger, and he felt each touch reverberate within him. A question hummed in the air. Would she see his vulnerability as beautiful, or as a clumsy exposure of his soul? "You," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "captured something raw here." The sincerity in her gaze sent a surge of energy through him, creating a heady mix of anxiety and exhilaration. Jake took a hesitant step forward, feeling a weight lift as he readied himself to articulate his intentions. But just as he opened his mouth, his heart ached with another realization. This art was just the beginning. Beneath the layers of emotions lay truths he had yet to unpack within himself, and he needed to be ready to confront both his art and the scars of intimacy. As Emily looked at him, a silent question hung between them, echoing louder than any words. Would they both find healing in the unveiling of their past, or would they find themselves ensnared by it? "Do you think?" he started, but the thought crumbled mid-sentence, leaving an opening for deeper conversations. Yet an unspoken difficulty lingered in the air. This pivotal moment triggered another wave of doubts within Jake, and he grappled with the need to articulate his feelings not just through paint, but through honesty. How to weave together the fragments of rebuilding and reconnecting. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, illuminating the barn in warm golds and fiery reds, he questioned whether he was truly ready to embrace this next step with her. The hour had arrived for raw confrontation and vulnerability. But would he seize the moment, or would his fears drive him back into silence? As tension coiled between them, the answer remained tantalizingly just out of reach. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension, a palpable force that both invited and intimidated. Jake could feel his heart pounding in his chest, an urgent reminder of how close he stood to revealing not just his art, but the deepest parts of himself. What if she doesn't understand? The thought echoed harshly. He searched Emily's face for a clue, a flicker of what she might be feeling, but her expression remained inscrutable. The abstract canvas between them felt like a barrier and a bridge all at once, a testament to what they had shared, yet an unsure representation of everything left unspoken. "Jake," she said, pulling him from his spiraling thoughts, "this piece, it's beautiful. It's like you've laid your heart out for everyone to see." Her sincerity broke through his haze, a glimmer of hope glistening on the surface of his doubts. An unexpected warmth surged through him. Encouraged, he took a single step closer. "I wanted to encapsulate our journey, the good and the complex." Emily's eyebrow arched in curiosity. "So, this is about us?" His throat tightened. Did he dare claim it? "It's about reconnecting and moving beyond," he managed, his voice steadier than before, infused with a desperation to pull her closer, not just physically, but emotionally. "There's so much I haven't said." In that moment, he perceived the weight of shared history, all the laughter and pain, the lingering looks and unfulfilled desires. But vulnerability was not just revealing, it was also terrifying. He realized in equal measure the risk he faced in this revelation. The journey demanded more than just his brush's stroke, it begged for his trust. "I've felt lost without you," he confessed, leaning against the barn, grounding himself with the familiar smell of hay and rich earth. "And this," he gestured toward the chaos of colors and emotions within the frame, "is my attempt at finding direction again." Silence wrapped around them as Emily absorbed his words. The emotional weight of the moment settled heavily on Jake. Would his honesty create a rift or bring them nearer? The uncertainty niggled at him like a persistent itch. "Jake," she began softly, "it's not just your art capturing feelings, it's you too. You've expressed something I've wanted to say but didn't know how." The sincerity of her admission glimmered through the evening air, touching the depths of what he had shared. Jake felt an involuntary flicker of hope. Perhaps this was the alignment he sought, not just within himself, but with Emily as well. Yet murky uncertainties still clouded his heart. The past weighed heavily upon them, instincts cautioning him that revealing too much might sting more than it healed. "Can we talk about what this means?" she continued, her voice steadying him as he wrestled with both eagerness and apprehension. The invitation to delve deeper intimidated him, opening a doorway he felt unprepared to walk through. He hesitated, thoughts spiraling as past failures and fears overshadowed his determination. Speaking his truth may metaphorically unload his burdens, but it could also expose him, raw and vulnerable. Did he have any rights to lay their history bare before her? But he felt his artistic embers struggling to ignite. After all, was art not an extension of one's voice? This fledgling sense of purpose surged in him. If he truly wished to rekindle their bond, conversing candidly seemed imperative. Let's explore it," he finally said, though an undercurrent of dread accompanied the words. Fear draped over him like a heavy blanket. In taking that leap, he risked evoking the past. Loss haunted the edges of his heart, and he knew a reckoning awaited them both. But was it welcome? As her eyes locked onto his, urging, he felt the shift. This wasn't merely about art. It was about them, navigating the intricate landscape of their shared existence. As much a part of him as the paint on the canvas, the unresolved past echoed back to him in a haunting reminder of choices left unchecked. The conversation unspooled itself within him, bubbling with a mix of trepidation and urgency. This was it, his chance to explore the deeper intricacies of their connection. But would he harness that power, craft his own narrative? Or would it all slip away, unformed and hidden like the shadows at dusk? He took a breath, grounding himself in the moment, realizing he might just unravel not only their past, but awaken something new. "What if we start by sharing our truths first?" As Emily nodded, a charged stillness enveloped them, brimming with the potential for unearthing hidden thoughts. Jake sensed his heart racing as he faced the precipice of revealing everything about himself that he hadn't known how to voice. The path ahead was shadowed, but for the first time, he felt a flicker of resolve piercing through the uncertainty. This was more than just art. It was a reckoning. Perhaps he could finally confront the very fears that had held him captive. Would they emerge transformed or forever altered in the process? The prospect of digging into that vulnerable ground set his heart racing, inviting him to conjure the courage necessary for what lay ahead. Would this be their moment of authentic connection? Or would the ghosts of their histories keep them shrouded in silence? A weight of unspoken words settled between them as Jake and Emily prepared to dive into the murky waters of their shared past. Jake was acutely aware of the stakes, each pulse a reminder that vulnerability often unraveled into pain but could also unfurl into something beautiful. He cleared his throat, a prelude to what felt like a performance on an unfamiliar stage. "Okay," he started, his voice low but steady. "I guess I'll go first." It felt strange to initiate this dialogue, as if he was pushing against a door long hidden and locked, its hinges rusted from disuse. With each word he spoke, he exposed a fragment of his soul, piecing together the man he was and the man he wanted to be. After we broke apart, I lost focus. The art kept flowing out of me, but it lacked direction. I was painting the chaos, but I wasn't embracing any clarity. Each stroke reflected the loneliness I felt without you. Jake watched as Emily's gaze softened, yet the tension knotted in his stomach as he feared where this openness might lead. Her eyes shimmered under the dim barn light, imbued with a blend of understanding and something deeper. "I thought chasing after the next big piece would fill the void," he continued, "but nothing changes the fact that my heart felt like a canvas thrown aside, half-finished and neglected." Emily inhaled deeply as if absorbing the very essence of his confession. "You weren't the only one who struggled," she replied, her tone unwavering. "Without you, I felt adrift. Each day blurred into the next, just like those years spent longing for something I couldn't fully understand." Her admission struck a chord within him. He wanted to reach out, to pull her closer, but he feared that proximity might ignite an intensity too fierce to control. "But why didn't we ever talk about it? Why didn't we just confront what was happening?" he challenged, frustration entwining with the sorrow that filled the air. "Because it was easier to hide," she answered, her voice tinged with regret. "I convinced myself that avoiding the messy emotions would protect us both from heartache, but in truth, it only deepened the wounds." The revelation hung there, palpable and heavy, constricting the space between them. Each word felt like a discovery, exposing the fractures they had both dealt with in isolation. Jake's heart raced as he pondered the fragility of shared history, realizing how close they had been to communicating their fears. "What if we try to understand each other's pain instead?" Jake suggested tentatively. "Would confronting their vulnerabilities allow them to peel away layers of distrust?" He could sense her hesitation. Fear dulled the sparkle in her eyes, but something else flickered beneath that uncertainty, an ember of hope. "Tell me what you need from me, Jake," she whispered, as though this was the first time she truly recognized him, past the artist, beyond the canvas. "I want to know you," he replied with conviction. "Not the versions we painted for each other, but the real messy, complicated truths. I want to embrace the imperfect." He could see the knots in her brow ease as she considered his words. "I want that too," she said softly, "but it terrifies me." "Then let's face it together," Jake urged, feeling a spark ignite within him. Perhaps this was the birth of a new understanding, the kind that seeped into their art, guiding each brushstroke toward a deeper connection. For the first time, he felt the heaviness of fear dissipate, replaced with a burgeoning curiosity to explore this brave new landscape of possibilities. Could they truly unearth and honor both the beautiful memories and the painful scars? Yet just as clarity began to surface, a shadow loomed at the edges of their conversation, a fear that the past, so intricately woven into their present, might ultimately tether them. What if, despite their best intentions, revisiting those aches only uncovered deeper fissures? The air thickened again with tension as they stared at each other, a silent question hovering. Would they embrace the truth, no matter the potential consequences? Or would their shared history keep them shackled in uncertainty? As the soft glow of dusk wrapped around them, Jake felt both naive and brave. The journey had begun, but now it lay before them, the call of truly knowing one another beckoning amidst the chaos of emotions awaiting revelation. And that revelation, he knew, would challenge the very foundation of who they believed they were, and could still become. Would they falter at the edge of honesty, or leap into the unknown, driven to unveil the depths of their connection and the potential for rebirth? The air buzzed with anticipation as Jake and Emily faced one another, barely keeping their emotions in check. Their confessions had formed a fragile bridge, a shared understanding that pulsed gently between them. Jake regarded Emily with a newfound determination, his resolve to embark on this journey of vulnerability radiating from within. "Before we go further," he began, the gravity of the moment washing over him, "I want to clarify something." He paused, crafting his thoughts carefully. "The fear of rejection has always held me back. I was so terrified that I would disappoint you, or worse, that my art would never be enough. But here we are, confronting the past together. I want us both to feel free to explore and express what we truly feel, without any masks." Emily's expression softened, her eyes glistening with understanding. "I needed to hear that. I've been caught up in expectations too, both my own and those I felt from everyone else. But I want to break free of those chains, Jake. I want us to connect through honesty, through what we create and through what we feel," she replied, her voice steadying with each word. An electric thrill coursed through Jake at her sincerity. For the first time, he'd glimpsed the possibility of genuine healing, both personally and artistically. "Then let's promise each other this," he proposed earnestly. "No more hiding or avoiding the truth. We face whatever emotions come up together. Our fears will transform into art instead of barriers." Their pact hung in the air, palpable and potent. Jake felt an unwavering connection start to mend the fissures in their bond, ignited by this newly forged commitment. They were opening Pandora's box. The thrill of being seen for who they truly were, flaws and all, coursed through him. As dusk painted vibrant strokes across the sky, shadows danced playfully within the barn. What had once been his sanctuary now felt like the pulse of possibility. Jake gestured toward the canvases that surrounded them, their surfaces gleaming like new opportunities awaiting expression. "Let's make art together," he suggested. "For the both of us." Emily's eyes sparkled with excitement, and she nodded vigorously. "Yes, let's create something that tells our story, reflecting where we've been, the heartaches and the triumphs." With a sense of exhilaration they gathered supplies, their movements fluid and synchronized, each brushstroke a physical manifestation of the bond they were rebuilding. Paint mingled with intention as they articulated their emotions through vibrant hues and sweeping gestures. Jake felt free, liberated from the restraints of expectation, embodied by the act of creation. Hours slipped away unnoticed as they laughed, debated colors, and shared fragments of their lives. The deep bond they'd shared in their youth was mending into something richer, more profound. Jake began to understand that true art was forged not only from beauty but also from vulnerability. Each stroke of the brush became a heartbeat, each color a raw emotion woven into a tapestry of their evolving relationship. Eventually, they stepped back to survey their work. The canvas before them pulsed with life, both a reflection of their past and a powerful symbol of their present, an embrace of unfiltered honesty. Jake grinned, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. "Look at what we created together." "It's incredible," Emily replied, awe radiating from her. "I can't believe how much we've transformed through this process." Jake felt pride swell in his chest, the weight of his previous insecurities easing like the summer breeze wafting through the barn's open door. What we're doing, it means everything to me. I've been seeking validation in my art for so long, but this is about something much greater than mere accolades." As their eyes met, a new understanding flowed between them. They recognized the artistry of emotions, the delicate intertwining of hopes, fears, and dreams. This collaborative creation had birthed not only their shared narrative, but had also reaffirmed the importance of intertwining their paths moving forward. "Jake," Emily's voice broke through his contemplation, capturing his attention fully. "I want you to know that you're not a reflection of an expectation or legacy from the past. You're incredibly talented and deserve to carve out your own journey." "Thank you, Em." The sincerity of her words ignited something deep within him. "You've helped me confront the truth I've buried for too long. I've been too scared to define my own legacy. You're inspiring me to reclaim what means the most to me, to be me." At that moment, a shift rippled through Jake. He realized just how far he had come, standing with Emily, not only as a hopeful partner, but as fellow creators. He felt solid confidence in his artistic expression. Together, they had discovered the bravery to establish their respective paths anew, unified by a commitment to loyalty, to their craft, to each other, and to honesty. A vibrant connection flowed between them as the last strokes of the brush sealed their artwork, a blend of emotions intertwined with newfound freedom on canvas and in their lives. And as time passed, the upcoming art show no longer felt like a looming specter of anxiety, but a new dawn, a celebration of growth and authentic expression now marked in splashes of color. "I'm ready," Jake voiced, a calm certainty washing over him, "ready to showcase my heart and ours." As they stood side by side, an unbreakable bond now forged in the fires of vulnerability and creativity, Jake knew he was not only achieving artistic fulfillment, but sculpting an authentic life alongside Emily. They had embraced their past, faced their fears, and emerged as artists, partners, and most importantly, as the truest versions of themselves, ready to navigate whatever lay ahead together. This moment marked a profound shift, a clear delineation between who he had been and who he was becoming. Standing together framed by the sunset that washed over the barn and filled it with warmth, Jake felt confident that the choices they made from now on would radiate courage and authenticity, a testament to their shared journey of artistic and personal rebirth. Now it was time to forge ahead into the world, determined to redefine legacy, not just on canvas, but in their lives. Their story was just beginning, and together, they would paint their own destiny, the path unveiled before them, vibrant and full of possibility. You need to subscribe now to our channel and witness these transformative journeys unfold. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now, to feed the algorithm with love. Don't wait even one more second. Comment your thoughts, reactions, and theories about Jake and Emily's journey, and don't forget to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Join us on this compelling journey of authentic life stories.